again, but the point, he
stopped.
He materially defied it. That's beside the point.
He kept
but
trying
Trump
until
is
the
not,
Supreme Court
Trump is
found
not
him,
currently defying the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court said he needs to facilitate the return for Abrego Garcia. And I don't advocate for the man. I just advocate
The Supreme Court has not said they have to do that. They haven't. You're wrong. What the Supreme Court said is that the Trump administration made an error and they have to write a request to El Salvador, which they did.
But you're ignoring the part where they said he has to facilitate the return.
And he has. El Salvador has denied it.
This wasn't just a routine Q&A with polite back and forth. Instead, it turned into a tense clash as a student pressed Charlie Kirk on constitutional principles, the legacy of Trump's presidency, and the question of who truly receives due process under American law. What unfolded was less of a conversation and more of a legal sparring match, filled with contradictions, layered arguments, and plenty of sharp pushback exchanged from both sides of the room.
Hi, so my name's Robert Matas, and I kind of want to not make this like a screaming match. I first off do want to say that although I don't believe in a lot of the stuff that you say, I do want to give you your flowers for giving us, people who do disagree, the chance to come and talk about it.
Thank you for saying that.
And two, like, even for me, like someone who wants to get into politics, I have a chance now to challenge my beliefs and myself with someone who's like talked to Newsom and everything. So my main thing I want to talk about is the fact that, so you have said that you're a constitutionalist, right? Like, you feel like you are a strong believer in the Constitution?
Correct.
Yeah. So my question is, or I guess my belief is that now with the modern day presidency, you cannot be a constitutionalist and still support Trump.
Okay, why? And then I have a follow-up question.
So my first thing is, one, Trump openly defying the Supreme Court, and supporting that is him saying on an interview just the other day he does not know if it's his job to uphold the Constitution, which in fact is one of the main jobs of the presidency. Which I feel like, am I wrong? Can you combat that?
I don't believe that's what he said, but let's talk.
You can look at the interview. That's literally what he said. He has lawyers to decide whether he has to uphold the Constitution.
No, of course.
When the DOJ is not his attorneys.
Well, no, the DOJ actually 100% is.
They are the U.S. government attorneys.
No, but
they do not protect Donald J. Trump.
Stop interrupting me. First of all, what branch is the Department of Justice in?
I'm not. Okay, sorry, I don't have that written down here. I'm just.
Dude, come on. I mean.
But can you?
It's in the executive branch. So the
can
DOJ.
You respond to my claim though?
Yes, without you interrupt. I let you talk uninterrupted.
You're true.
The DOJ works for President Trump completely and totally. They are in the executive branch. The Attorney General is wholly.
Take a closer look at how this exchange unfolds. The student opens by showing respect for the dialogue, but almost immediately shifts gears and goes on the offensive. His challenge is direct. If someone claims to uphold the Constitution, how can they justify supporting Trump? It's a sharp framing that sets him up to press hard, but Kirk doesn't let the moment linger. He quickly seizes control of the discussion, flipping the narrative back onto constitutional ground. Instead of debating personal loyalty, he zeroes in on the technical side, executive authority, and the Justice Department's responsibilities under Article 2. By doing so, he reframes the question entirely, forcing the audience to think in terms of structure, not sentiment.
Adherent to the President of the United States. Secondly, tell me about Article 2.
Well, they are also there to keep Trump in check.
No, they're not. No, that's where you're wrong, dude. That's the third branch. That's what. No. See, this is where you're totally miseducated. The DOJ works for President Trump. Literally, the Attorney General of the United States works for the President of the United States. The Supreme Court, or the third branch, is a separate branch. The DOJ is not a separate branch. It's not.
I'm not saying the DOJ is a separate branch, but I'm saying the DOJ should. I'm saying that they are not meant to serve Trump.
Yes, they are.
If Trump does something wrong.
No, that's wrong. That's not correct. You see, you have a wrong, and you have to tell me what article does the Attorney General fall under? 1, 2, or 3?
I don't.
Article 2, which is the President of the United States. All power vested in Article 2 is vested in the President. That's right there in Article 2. Now, as far as define the Supreme Court, he hasn't defied it, but even if he did, Joe Biden.
He's trying to challenge it, though.
Challenging's not defying, dude. That's appealing to the Supreme Court. Joe Biden literally defied a final decision on the Supreme Court when it came to student loans.
But it didn't go through. It stopped.
No. Joe Biden kept on actually defying it.
Yeah, because he kept trying to rework it to where it would be legal.
Again, but the point, he stopped. He materially defied it. That's beside the point.
He kept trying until the Supreme Court
Trump is not currently defying the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court said he needs to facilitate the return for Abrego Garcia. And I don't advocate for the man. I just
The
advocate
Supreme
for
Court has not said they have to do
But-
that. They haven't. You're wrong. What the Supreme Court said is that the Trump administration made an error and they have to write a request to El Salvador,
But you're
which they did.
ignoring the part where they said he has to facilitate the return.
And he has. El Salvador has denied it.
he said he
doesn't control.
want to ask.
He doesn't control El Salvador.
Okay. I want to appreciate too. Thank you for helping me with the stuff that I am wrong about. So that I appreciate as well.
Last point. Then we have a long line.
Okay. I also want to say too. I've heard you make points about how the Fifth Amendment only applies to U.S. citizens.
In certain cases, yes.
Do you believe that the 14th Amendment as well only applies to U.S. citizens?
Again, in a limited scope, yes. Because, again, the Supreme Court agrees. Again, there's expedited removal.
What about...
The Supreme Court has said there's no due process
So
rights
let
for
me-
any... you're interrupting me, man.
Okay.
The Supreme Court has said that there is no due process rights for illegal aliens that have come within 100 miles of the southern border or 2 weeks of entry. That's a 2019 decision based on expedited removal. So actually, and according to many other Supreme Court decisions, an illegal alien within 2 years here in the United States...
Here's where the exchange takes a turn. The student argues that Trump outright defied the Supreme Court, painting it as a serious violation. But Kirk pushes back, reframing it as something less severe. Trump wasn't ignoring the court. He was challenging a ruling. That distinction changes the tone of the debate. Then Kirk executes a classic pivot. He shifts the spotlight to President Biden, accusing him of actual defiance when it comes to student loan forgiveness. It's a textbook rhetorical strategy. Soften your own side's alleged mistake while highlighting what you frame as the opponent's bigger failure.
Okay, but what about... So also, this is something I want to point out too. You call a lot of the immigrants that are in the country, ones that cross over the border, illegal immigrants.
They're all criminals, yes.
When most of them, especially, and I want to ask you what you think about the ones who were arrested or were detained while trying to go through the legal processes. The ones who came in, actually, and it is a loophole. I'll admit that Joe Biden allowed for a loophole to get into the system, right, through
Open borders?
No, through asylum. So asylum was a loophole, but it still was a legal way to enter the country. And what about the illegal immigrants who were detained while going to their meetings to make sure they stayed within the legal processes?
They're still in violation of 8 U.S.C. 1312.
If they came in using...
What is 8 U.S.C. 1312? You don't know. That's fine. It's fraudulently filling out an asylum claim, of which these people are.
But that's what the courts are
Again,
for.
there's 8 U.S.C. 1305, which is illegally crossing the southern border, which can be enforced also upon the second entrance going on.
Isn't that,
and then there's 8
but
U.S.C.
crossing
13.
into the border...
Again, man, I know. I don't mean to make you look bad.
Okay.
You just don't know enough about this stuff. I encourage you to look at 8 U.S.C. 1305, 8 U.S.C. 1312, how the criminal code actually comes in particular here. The Supreme Court has given President Trump full authority to deport these illegals without same due process as people here in America.
But what about
Last
the
point.
Supreme Court decisions
Yes, so I know what you're talking about.
Which
Yes.
one? Which Supreme Court?
I don't know the name, but it basically says that's for
In
illegal aliens.
1903?
Yes,
Okay.
those are for illegal aliens that commit crimes while they are here.
As the debate moves into immigration and questions of due process, the divide between the two becomes even clearer. The student frames the issue around moral responsibility and constitutional fairness, emphasizing what he sees as the spirit of the law. His approach appeals to values and ideals. Kirk, however, doesn't engage on that emotional ground. Instead, he anchors his arguments in the letter of the law, pointing to expedited removal policies and the technical codes that govern them. At this stage, the exchange feels less like a moral debate and more like a contest over who can cite the sharpest statute at just the right moment.
So that's if it an illegal.
This Supreme Court decision recognized due process rights for non-citizens in deportation hearings.
Yes, correct.
Deportation hearings.
Again, the Supreme Court has clarified that in 2019 that not every single illegal here within the last 2 years gets a deportation hearing. They've clarified it, and people are conveniently ignoring it in the media.
And
Thank you
so
for your time.
Can you tell me then where I can
Yes.
find that they clarified it?
Type in a ChatGPT.
Not ChatGPT, from the Supreme Court.
It will lead you to the source. Say, find me the Supreme Court case, because I don't know the name of it. 2019-2018 decision around expedited removal within 100 miles of the border and 2 years of being in the country. The Supreme Court clarified they do not need the same due process rights.
So you're also saying though that these other Supreme Court cases that reaffirmed that due process rights does apply to non-citizens, naturalized or...
Again, what the Supreme Court said is they had a distinction. They said that if an illegal alien is here and, for example, commits a DUI, they get due process on that infraction. They don't get due process necessarily on just the fact they came into the southern border illegally. So there's about crimes you commit on the interior of the country different than ones that you commit while you come into the country.
But what about the people who have not committed crimes?
It doesn't matter. Coming in the country, coming in the country is a crime. It doesn't matter.
For longer than 2 years.
The Supreme Court will hopefully.
It's a civil offense.
It's not. Again, it's an 18 USC.
I'm pretty sure it's 13. It's a
8 USC 1312. It makes it a felony to harbor yourself illegally in the United States of America and not notify the government of your presence. You can look it up anytime you want. 8 USC 1312. Any illegal alien that does not tell the government where they are, what they're doing, and why they are here is in violation and is currently committing a felony. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
I want to. Thank you.
Well, can I say one last
No,
thing?
we got to get to the next question. Thank you.
Now let's step back and unpack what just happened in those clips that ate Tia's heart. This wasn't simply a Q&A. It was a collision between principle and technicality. The student came in swinging, pointing out what he saw as a glaring contradiction. How can someone claim to be a constitutionalist while also supporting Trump? For him, that single inconsistency was disqualifying. If Trump had ever questioned his obligation to uphold the Constitution, that alone stripped him of legitimacy. It wasn't just a rhetorical jab. It was a direct challenge to the very idea of constitutional credibility. But Kirk didn't bite. Instead, he immediately shifted the debate onto the mechanics of power. He leaned on Article 2, arguing that the Department of Justice falls squarely under presidential authority. That framing was neat, clean, and definitive on the surface. Yet it blurred an important detail. The DOJ's duty is to the law itself, not to the man in office. By presenting it as unquestionable presidential control, Kirk gained ground, but at the cost of nuance. The Supreme Court discussion deepened the divide. The student argued that Trump outright defied the court. Kirk reframed it as merely challenging a ruling, and then executed a quick pivot, accusing President Biden of being the true defier on student loans. Classic debate move. Soften your side's actions and magnify the opponent's. The flaw: if Biden's persistence counts as defiance,